Today's guest is one of the kindest people I know. Angel has been in the competitive distance skateboard scene for over 8 years now and has recently been kicking it up a notch in preparation for the 2024 Miami Ultra Skate. He had a lot to share about his training practices, as well as some insight into the forces that drive him to compete. It goes without saying that we are not health experts, and we are not trained in medicine in any way. However, we do have quite a bit of experience when it comes to riding skateboards for long periods of time. So bear that in mind while listening. Everyone is encouraged to do their own research and discuss these things with the larger community. In addition to all this, he also has a pair of wonderful cats who you will probably hear throughout the recording. As always, thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Max Frank. Hello and welcome to Skating in Circles. I'm here today with Angel Aldrete. Angel, how you doing?
Hey, good morning. Doing fantastic, thank you.
First question I always like to ask people is where they're coming from. And last I talked to you, you were moving around a little bit. So where actually are you right now?
I'm actually still in the northern Seattle area.
Okay.
Although a week from today, I'll probably be hanging out in the Phoenix area.
Wow, what a change.
So come check me out.
So you're going from the cold, wet northwest to the hot and dry southwest.
Very much so. Yeah, we're looking forward to the drier skate weather.
Very cool. Yeah. Another question that is kind of ambiguous, but I like to ask it sometimes just to see where people take it to. And I feel like you might have a good answer to this question. And that is, what motivates you?
Yeah, I guess in short, I'm kind of a competitive skater. I really enjoy squaring up with other folks playfully and, pushing each other to see how best we can, fight for the podium. So just pushing each other competitively, but also what motivates me, I think, is just wanting to do my personal best. Having the feeling of, wanting to see what my personal limit is and how I can keep pushing myself further and faster.
Yeah. I think it's funny you say like you're this really competitive person and whatnot, because I've known you for a while now, actually, maybe like 7 years, maybe. It's been a while.
Probably.
And you're one of the nicest people I've ever met. Right.
Oh.
So like, you're like, oh, I'm really cutthroat. And it's like, okay, my God, like, okay, like, sure. Yeah. I don't know. It's funny to hear, but also I can see that for sure. Like when you're out there and competing, like it seems like you are very much driven by the people around you. It's fun to hear you say that. You're driven to be better and to like hit the podium, because being on the podium is very much you are competing at that point. You are fighting against someone, right?
Oh yeah.
And some people take that literally, where they get real intense about it, and I like your mentality of being the nice guy, but at the same time being cutthroat in the inside.
Yeah. I mean, I find it very enjoyable to be that cutthroat attitude, while you're racing, while still maintaining a very much a playful perspective.
Uh-huh.
You still want to compete and try to do your best and fight for this kind of golden title that's like enticing you like a carrot. But it's good to be aware of like not pushing it so far that you're having this like toxic and maybe unpleasant attitude around others. So it's fun to be competitive without it being too much.
Yeah, like you're not taking yourself too seriously.
Yeah.
All right. It is about having fun in the end.
Also, this sport that we're doing, I feel like small enough that when you go to these events, you'll probably see the same skaters again. Most likely, you'll see them at another race, and you don't want to create bad tension between others.
Yeah. The animosity doesn't really take you anywhere. It's not
Mm-mm.
like we're boxers, this isn't like some UFC thing, right?
No.
Yeah. So when was your first time riding a skateboard? I've known you for a while, but I don't know the answer to this question, and I'm very curious.
Yeah. I think the first time I ever like picked up a board, I think I must have been like first or second year in high school. I think I'm kind of a late bloomer considering other people listening in and hearing about their stories. I forget what the game is called. It's the White Elephant or White Elephant. And I was able to receive a skateboard out of it. And it was a short board. I don't even remember what kind of board it was, but I was kind of pushing around in my hallways and I realized, man, skateboarding is hard. Skateboarding is scary. So I never actually like was driven with that short board to like keep skating. It wasn't until probably like my middle or later years of high school that like I saw longboards and I saw some of my friends or peers riding these boards and I was like, man, that's kind of a cool way to kind of get around. And my very first board that I was able to receive in my collection was an Arbor Deck, this pintail board. It was like the bamboo.
Yeah.
And I had fun with that thing. And I remember riding around this sidewalks of the school and just like testing out the boundaries of freedom with this board and being able to be like, wow, I can go to these like places and I don't have to walk. I think I was like taking the bus, so I was like, oh, it makes it so much faster to go from point A to point B.
Right. It's funny you say the Arbor bamboo. It was like a pintail. Yeah, I think that was also one of my first boards too that I started
nice.
distance on. You like brought back some memories with that. That's really funny.
Yeah, I think it was like the shape that like drew me into it. It's like, oh, I think at the time I was very much like very inspired by the surf and like hippie nature. So I was like, man, that shape is so cool and like want to get around to that safe or that surf style of skating. And it was a good time. It was able to like introduce me into skateboarding.
That's really cool. All right. So given that, right, you start riding boards, you figure out I can go distance. And then did you go out to an event or something? Like what got you into the scene like as deep as you are now? Take us down the timeline a little bit.
I think traveling from that, when I finished high school, I went to Hawaii for some time. I lived in the Big Island.
Ooh.
And from traveling on the Arbor board, I was pretty interested in doing like downhill skating. I was very intrigued by like, oh, go fast, look cool, do slides. Like I want to be that kind of guy. And I don't remember the board off the top of my head, but I remember it was this like the super drop deck type of board.
Was it like a longboard Larry?
No, I think it was just a board I found off Zoomies or some general skate mall company. It wasn't a drop through mounting, but it was still top mounted. But the board itself was like the deepest drop I've still have like seen on the board. I think maybe like 2 inches of drop. Yeah. So in Hawaii, I skated for some time. But when I came back to the States in Washington, back in my hometown, you know, I seen these flyers posted up and it's like, you know, a skate distance event. You know, I skate and I have this like low deck, low to the ground style board. Like, I got this. This is in my head at the time. I was thinking like, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. Like,
yeah.
I remember I was doing like some training where I was like, I don't know, skating like no more than a kilometer, but like I was expecting at the time, like who else skates distances? I actually have the date. I found the article, but on October 10th, 2015 was the first time I did a 5K on the board.
Wow. I think I have footage of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the 5K in the rain, right? Yeah,
very
and
much.
you're in the one of the clips. It's like, oh, there's Miguel. Dude, no way.
I'll send you a photo, but
That was 2015?
that was 2015.
Wow.
I might have to recheck the date, but yeah, I finished my 5K in 18th place at 14 minutes 55 seconds, and I was blown away. I didn't realize how scientific the skate setups were.
Uh-huh.
I didn't realize that people traveled from across the country to skate this little race in my hometown.
Yeah.
Like it's an amazing coincidence that I found this cool skate event in my home little town. And it's so funny because I did that 5K and there's still other events the day after. I don't remember what the other events were. I think maybe like a 10K and maybe like a half marathon or something. But I remember that 5K wiped me out. I I finished as best as I could. And the next day, I remember it was a 2-day event. And the second day, I just could barely get out of bed. I was so wiped out. I was so sore and so tired. I didn't show up.
Wow.
But it hooked me. I was so determined to go back the next year and kind of reconnect and do some more research of skateboards and longboards. It was the competitiveness that drove me to keep like looking up things and seeing what I can do with those things.
I think your story is really cool. It's this whole idea, right? If there are more local events, think about how many other people would find out about this whole thing we do, right? It's like,
oh yeah,
getting it out there is all about just having some random 5K in in this town in Washington, right? Like Arlington is just some random town kind of. It's not like some like happening place. I guess maybe it was at one point, but
sure,
it's just a normal town.
It's Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So like anyone can do it. And like you said, people will travel for these things when if they're in the training for it, right? It means something to them. So they will come out to your event too, but mostly about locals. I think the 5K is super approachable. Like when you read that, you're saying like you're riding like 1 kilometer at a time, maybe not very far, but you're like, oh, 5K skate race. Like I'm the only one who skates around here, right? Like it's such a cool vibe. Like you think I'm sure other people had the same idea and they go out to events thinking they're going to be the best. It's fun, right? The only way to grow the sport is to have events like that.
Yeah, very much so. I'm hopefully in the future that I can do the same back to the communities and we can all share the stoke and have our own little events like that. Doesn't have to be anything big, but yeah, it was that event that kind of sucked me in.
Right on. So that was 2015, and then you mentioned you came back 2016. And so at that point you're into distance skateboarding, right? You're a distance skateboarder now. And you're training, like at that point you're skating most weeks, right? Good amount of mileage, right? So like did you decide you wanted to start traveling out to events? Did you hear about certain events you wanted to get out to? Like where did you take it from there, I guess? You got beat up the first year, you came back, did well the next year, and then what?
Yeah. I currently don't have much documentation. That's how I'm able to kind of keep track of these things. But I don't remember what was my next board after that heavy drop deck. It might have been, I might have been looking at platform decks because I think like at that first centennial, I believe you and your brother were there.
Yeah,
I remember
sure.
Kyle Yan being there and Harrison.
Yeah.
And I think at the time, those platform bracket decks were really, really sporty looking. And I was definitely invested in that style. Yeah. I thought, and I still ride that style deck, but seeing and learning about the ergonomics and the way that deck works, I think I invested myself in the platform deck, and I was invested in skateboarding more and training. But I think where it took me next was the skate race in, I believe it was Dallas.
The Rock Around the Rock one?
No, it was actually more of a skate event geared towards garage racing. Yeah, I wish I could remember what it's called. It might have been actually Houston that the event was happening. The skate race itself, I believe, was a 10K. It was in Galveston, and the big draw was for the Garage Series. But that was the first time I had looked forward to an event outside of my state of Washington. And I traveled to this place by myself, going to Texas for the first time. I was able to meet Aaron Mohammadi for the first time of Insanity Board Shop.
Oh, yeah.
I was able to meet Andy Andres for the first time. It was in training, I'd been learning about him. And I believe at the time he had broken 300 before me meeting him. So it was like this like star shining moment. I was like, whoa, you're Andy. I got to meet Lance Curry. I don't know if you remember him.
Oh, I know Lance. Yeah.
I feel like he's kind of an OG skater and very much a downhill skater. So that was the first time that I kind of explored where longboarding can take me.
Yeah.
Showing up to this event, I was, welcomed by the distance skaters, and I got to meet some really cool people. In fact, one of my favorite stories of me first meeting Aaron Mohammadi, me showing up, I don't know anyone, no one knows me. And I'd been training, and it's like, okay, it's time to put all this training to use for the first time. And I think by then I had this, the La Machina platform deck. I had the bracket set up. It was an out and back skate. And Aaron and I were pretty evenly matched. I think we've been at neck and neck with each other for the whole race. And in classic Aaron Mohammadi style, he somehow, I think, loses balance, or maybe there's just a nasty little pothole in the sidewalk. The trail conditions were not great, but we were still skating regardless. And his board flies into the ocean.
No way.
And I remember I was just motivated to keep going and try to see how fast I could do this event. So I kind of leave him behind. I skate without him, but at some point, I think during the halfway or the last little bit of the race, he catches back up with me. Wow. And that was the first time I was able to feel the rush of, oh my goodness, it's me versus like this one other guy. I forgot for which place. Yeah. But it's time, like it's action. It's time to fight and compete.
That was it.
Yeah.
So Aaron was the one who got you into competitive distance skateboarding.
I think before that, but he was the first one that I was able to practice it on.
Right.
Right. I do remember being able to outpush him, I think, by the fact that I was mildly studying the poor pavement and choosing the roadside to finish the race. Mm-hmm. But I, that event was the first time I was able to go somewhere and, just meet these cool folks and kind of engage with the skate community and just figure out there's some real love, some true athletes willing to come out to these events.
Yeah. That's cool. I kind of forgot about that little series, and hearing you talk about it, it sounds like it was pretty successful, and that story about Aaron is classic, though.
It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Board just goes flying into the ocean. And then he caught up to you, which is pretty impressive.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think that the year that I went might have been the last time it was a push event.
Okay.
But again, it's just these little one-offs that just kind of takes you there. People get to experience it, and if you're there, you're there, and if not, nah, there's another event around the corner.
All right. So one of the reasons, or one of the things we wanted to talk about for today was you've been training a ton.
Yeah.
You've been kind of at it. I've seen it on the Strava. I've seen it on the social media, doing these big rides. I think you did like 100K. What was it? Like it was like 4.5 hours or something,
Yeah, I did it in 4 hours 22 minutes.
Damn. That's impressive.
Thank you.
So like something like over 13 miles an hour.
Oh, okay. It's 4 hours 27 minutes.
Either way.
But I still felt pretty proud of that.
Yeah. I think that's really impressive. Those kind of long rides where you shoot for these goals is great training. What I want to know, and what listeners might be curious, is what are you training for? What's the next thing?
Yeah, I'm training for the all amazing ultra skate, the 24-hour skate race.
Yeah, I'm sure that comes as no surprise. We talk about the ultra skate a lot on the show. So you're training for ultra skate, Miami ultra skate, and this is a big event. It's a lot to do. You've done it before. My question, I guess, is what are you doing differently this year to combat some of the things maybe you saw were weak in previous training camps you've done, or training blocks you've done?
First off, for this year, ever since 2023 Ultra, I've been training, period. In past events, I've done some training, and I was able to kind of, could contain physical momentum, or at least like maintain. But this year, since that last Ultra, I've been, I think, the most motivated I've been heading into this next Ultra of 2024. And this year, to shake things up, I'm training. And
You're actually gonna train this time.
Yeah, I'm actually like trying to do more than just maintain. And I've been having a lot of fun with the virtual race series.
Yeah.
I think that's been a lot of fun to engage with. It, I think, helps with short bursts of energy, helps with long bursts of energy, from anywhere from those 5Ks, 10Ks, to the biggest one being the 100-kilometer skate event. So that's been, I think, a huge help. But now that series is all wrapped up, what I'm probably going to do is more longer rides, probably 100Ks, probably longer. Because along with physical training, I've been more engaged and trying to obtain more knowledge on fuel training, or at least just fuel, period.
What do you mean by fuel training? What is that?
I think the biggest downfall was last year or in previous years, not to say that I wasn't able to accomplish much, but my biggest downfall was not being as nutritionally supported as I was maybe physically able to do the event. So what I'm planning to do for this year is to consume much more than I probably ever have in the ultra skate.
Okay.
And
so like calories wise.
Yeah, calories, and for me, I've been keeping a close eye on my carb intake. I feel like that is kind of the key ingredient for this race.
Yeah, for sure.
To train for that is to train your gut to be able to absorb and to handle all this this weight and all this carbs I'm throwing at it. So training the gut mainly.
Right. So the fuel training part is making sure you eat the things you're going to eat during the ride, but focusing on carbs and basically training your body to be ready to like consume a lot of calories while working out.
Yeah. In past ultra skates, I've I think consumed like no more than 50 grams of carbs, which not to say I couldn't accomplish much.
50 grams of carbs an hour or just?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, 50 grams of carbs per hour. I was able to get by on some events. I was able to do a good deal of distances. From what I'm kind of leaning on with my physical training is for the nutrition and for the carbs to basically carry me, or at least for me to trust it to obtain the goal that I'm looking for. I am probably planning to consume about maybe 80 grams to 90 grams of carbs per hour.
Okay. It's almost double.
Yeah.
I think that's really smart. And what you're doing, like looking into the science behind it all and digging into all this, is really the right way to do it. I don't know, like off the top of my head, like any of this stuff, right? So hearing it from you is nice. I think when it comes to, my brother was saying the same thing. He does by carb intake, like grams, right? How many grams of carbs per hour? And that's what you're saying, 80 to 90. I think that makes sense. 50 sounds low, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean, and that's not to say that you can't accomplish a lot out of it. I was able to get my personal best ultra skate, which is 50 grams of carbs, 50 grams of carbs per hour. And I think, I don't know, somewhere around 500 milligrams of sodium per hour. I think for me to achieve the next level of my next goal, I have to trust in the fuel source and use that to my advantage. The analogy that I've been looking at with ultras, with the research I've been looking at, is that ultras is like an eating contest on the go.
Yeah, it's a great point.
And there's a lot of research out there for like ultras in terms of like ultra running and like Ironmans. And I just kind of use that knowledge and translate it to the board as best as I can.
Definitely. Running, it's an eating contest on the go. That's so true, though, because half of the battle is you like gauging and budgeting your energy so that you can actually consume the food before it becomes a problem. Because once it becomes a problem, it's going to be a lot harder to consume the food. And then it just takes longer to, get it through your system, right? So like this whole idea you have of getting ahead of all that is really smart. Yeah. And I'm curious to see what it's going to do for you. In your training, you've just been counting all the carbs basically for every hour and treating it like it's an ultra skate. Like for this 100K you did, right? How did that go?
Yeah. To kind of keep pushing up these levels, I didn't, start from my 50 grams of carbs per hour and jumped immediately to 90 grams of carbs per hour. It took some incremental steps. But yesterday was the first time. I did another 100 kilometers yesterday.
Nice.
And I really want to kind of push the envelope on how much grams of carbs per hour, as well as I've been looking at other fuel sources. So what it looks like is making sure I'm consuming the carb content. Yesterday, I was able to consume 90 grams of carbs per hour by means of gels, by powder, and using probably like the 100 kilometers as the best time of duration to kind of play with that nutrition. I think if you spend that amount of time, about 4 or 5 hours on the board, and you're able to incrementally increase your fuel source, you're able to kind of better prepare yourself for these long events.
Mm-hmm. That 4 hour mark is a big one. I feel like when you hit 4 hours, you've been at it for a while, and that's the point where I feel like if you haven't been eating enough, or if you haven't been catching up on your calories and liquids, that's when you really start to feel it.
I think also that 4 hour mark or 5 hour mark is for me, the first time I want to consume a solid fuel source and see how that felt in my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
Because after these long duration rides, you eventually need to consume small amounts of protein, small amounts of fats. So being able to test with these products or whichever fuel source you choose and see how that settles in your stomach.
Uh-huh.
Yesterday was the first time I consumed this one bar, and I just had a hard time getting through it. So I ditched that one and grabbed another one where I was able to better ingest it. And just testing those things out is right now being able to see, what works best for me, what's going to taste good. Because if you don't like it, it's going to taste miserable while you're skating for 24 hours.
Well, you make a couple of good points there, right? One is if you don't like something, but the other is like if you haven't tried something and it's a foreign taste and the first time you have it is 8 hours into an ultra skate, it's not going to taste good. Like rarely like does a new it's just mentally you're not going to be ready for it. And I think this whole idea where the example you gave was really good. You took a bite of something and it didn't taste good. So then you went to something you knew would taste good and you knew you could get down. So like think about that middle of an ultra skate, your support crew hands you a bar that you know you like. And it's like, oh yeah, I can just get this down. It's a huge difference than being handed something that you don't know about. Then you have to kind of evaluate. Maybe you have to look at what's in it, all this stuff that now you have to think about while you're trying to skateboard for 24 hours or trying to stay awake. Every little bit of energy is important, right?
Yeah, it's a lot to process while you're skating for 24 hours. Definitely having that support crew is really great to help relieve that mental anguish of trying to calculate your carb intake. But if you're not able to, just having this kind of whiteboard or like this notebook situation just to kind of tally where you're at. In base, carbs is what fuels our muscles, especially for these long events. So that's what I suggest for a lot of people, and to start training with that now to get used to their gut and taking these carbs. The numbers that I've been looking at is about for an event like this for 24 hours is about 60 grams of carbs, and that's probably like a minimum.
It obviously depends, right? How big you are,
Sure.
But like that's just it. You got to look into it for yourself.
Yeah, and I say this with not knowing the audience and what their needs are.
Mm-hmm.
Before this little chat that you and I are doing, I hit up a few 300-mile marker distance skaters, and I talked to them and see, like, what was your carb intake like?
Great idea.
And, you got someone like Kyle Yan who consumed, I think, around that 50 to 60 grams mark.
Mm-hmm.
And him suggesting a smaller amount just because of how small he is. And I was able to talk with Adam, and his was probably the most larger amount of grams per hour of, he said he consumed around that 90 gram per hour mark, but he at times was able to consume about, I think, 120 grams of carbs per hour.
Nice.
So that's a lot that you're throwing at your gut. That's quite a vast difference. And just knowing what works best for you, but not only that, but just working up to that amount.
Cool. What are your favorite like gels and stuff? Do you have anything you recommend?
I've been really into for hydration fuel, Scratch's high carb mix.
Oh yeah, that stuff's good.
I've used other products in the past, and I was very surprised by how much I have grown away from that product.
Tailwind?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess it's fine because like I try not to name drop these things.
I didn't even realize you didn't name drop it. I thought you had said it. But yeah, no, that's okay. I mean, Tailwind works for what it does. It doesn't do everything though.
Yeah.
Neither does Scratch.
But I forget actually the main reason why I was so invested by all this nutrition was last year, or at least the 2023 Ultra Skate. I show up to the event and I skate as best as I could. And at some point, I start having GI issues. I start bloating. I start feeling like, man, I just have like this brick of a loaf in my stomach, and eventually I start throwing up. And I was curious to know why. Why did I start throwing up? Was it the heat? I was using goo, and at first, for some period of time, I was thinking maybe it was the branched amino acids in goo, because there have been studies that said that high amounts of those can create some stress in the gut. But what I've depicted was I did not train my gut prior to that 2023 Ultra Skate. I'd been so used to Tailwind that I didn't think to use it beforehand to get my body ready. When I finished the event, it was probably the first time I walked out of the event with a breakout, and I think I shocked my system. So I think it was since then that like I've been super interested in making sure that I had my nutrition on set, and just making sure that like when I go into this next Ultra Skate that I'll be nutritionally ready and just confident in the field that I'm intaking. But Tailwind was the one that I had used, but with the longboard series, I kind of depicted that I can no longer use Tailwind. I think just my body doesn't agree with it as much anymore. So I've been using Scratch's high carb mix, and it's always good to kind of not rely on one fuel source in case you need to take something out of the equation, whether it be you get tired of one product. So I have been really enjoying the Science and Sports isotonic gels.
Oh, yeah. I love those.
Yeah, I think they're really great. And I've been kind of incorporating a company called Spring that uses...
Yeah, I love those. The Spring gels, there's like the canterbury, which is like strawberry, banana, and like basmati rice, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the other one I really like is the green one. You know the green one?
The apple pie.
Apple pie.
Yesterday was the first time I had it, and I loved it.
It's so good.
But I have a little sample pack from them, and I tried their mango. I think it has like caffeine.
Oh, fun.
But I wasn't able to ingest it, I think because of the fat content, but mainly because of it has coconut oil. So I opened it for the first time. I put it in my mouth yesterday, and I was like, wow, it's too coconutty. It's too much for me.
Ooh, that sounds good. I like that.
It wasn't
coconut mango. Yeah, no, for sure. I could see that. Coconut's kind of an intense flavor.
But I think that's the main point of doing these long rides is getting to a point of exhaustion and then trying these products out before Ultra Skate and seeing like, oh, do I like this? Am I able to ingest it? And being able to kind of practice and play around with that before it becomes serious.
Yeah. In regards to like these long rides you're doing, right? You said you did 100K yesterday. Is this like a normal training week for you right now? Are you just doing like 100-mile weeks? Do you have a schedule for each day? What does a normal training week look for you, I guess? Be the question.
Yeah. I think now that the Tour of the Longboard virtual series is all finished up, I'll probably be doing more 100 kilometers or plus rides just to simulate the idea of riding a little bit faster than ultra skate and seeing what fuel works best for me. These long rides are essentially like me getting into a pain cave to simulate fuel. But other than that, I think I just like to do some other ride, whether it be maybe like a 5K, 10K, or maybe I want to do like hill repetitions or maybe like more sprints. Me personally, I'm not a sprinter. I think that is the style of racing I kind of fall back on. So just being able to like keep working on those max heart rate intensity moments always is a good idea. Just working on your weaknesses.
So you talk about heart rate, right? Are most of your rides like low heart rate zone for the most part?
Yeah, these longer rides definitely keep a lower heart rate. I think it's zone 2 is kind of like what I fall into, or at least I think my average heart rate for yesterday was I think somewhere around 140 beats per minute, which I feel okay with just because I know I'm riding a little bit faster than ultra skate pace and still kind of simulating what it would feel like in a shorter duration of time.
Yeah. 140 is pretty good for holding ultra skate pace for I mean, you say ultra skate pace. What you're saying is 300 pace. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm
exposed.
Very much. I'm very superstitious when it comes to that. I've never really told someone that like, oh, I'm shooting for 300, but I feel like this is the year to do it for myself.
You're like indirectly saying it, right? Because you're like, if you go this fast, it's a little faster than ultra skate pace. What is he saying? Yeah, it's good though. The idea where you don't want to talk about it, right? Because like so much of that's out of your control. Like you don't know if it's just going to downpour the entire time, right? So the goal is not necessarily like 300. It's to set yourself up as best you could for 300. Because at the end of the, it gets to a point where you can't control certain things and you just got to show up.
Yeah, the weather is the only thing I can control. But I'm hopeful, whether good weather or bad weather, that I'm able to at least get a personal record just by me putting in the hours, the time, as well as spending countless of probably hours studying nutrition, going to the whiteboard, but as well as you kind of always need to break up the monotony. And I've been doing some rock climbing. That's kind of like my go-to side workout. And I mostly do gym rock climbing, so it keeps me, once a week in the gym of doing some indoor climbs and then being able to weight lift a little bit and nothing too crazy. I'm not too knowledgeable on weightlifting, but I get some reps in. I do a little bit of work just to kind of engage some different muscles and keep it moving.
Yeah. No, that's really smart. You're doing all the things you need to do, putting in the time, like you said. If you put in enough time into this and, you put your effort and your mental energy, right? All this is going to manifest itself into you showing up to ultra skate at the start line ready to go. Because I think you've been there, right? Maybe last year was one of those years where you show up at the start line, you're like, I don't know how to do this. You know what I mean? Like I've personally, I can say like I've definitely been there where you get there and you're like, damn, I didn't really train for this year. And that's fine. You don't have to train for ultra skate to have a good time. You don't have to train at all to go, right? That's not what I'm really saying. I think if you're the type of person who wants to beat their personal best, pushing themselves, it's so comforting to get there and be like, oh, I trained for this, All I have to do now is the same thing I've been doing for the past 8 months. Like, this is what I trained for. So it's gonna pay dividends.
Very much so. It's funny because in previous years, when people have asked me, oh, how do you train for something as big as an ultra skate? Amazingly enough, my answer was like, you can't, which is so silly because you totally can.
Yeah.
But in my idea at the time, I was thinking, other than doing long rides, like how else can you train for 24 hours? But the truth is, you totally can.
Yeah.
And for me, that looks like fuel training with training my body to absorb these large amounts of carbs, and as well as just maintaining this activity, a healthy lifestyle of making sure I get my vitamins, my sleep.
I like that you pointed out this question. Like I've heard it before, I'm sure many others have. How do you train for ultra skate? And you can't get too wrapped up in the 24-hour part of it.
Yeah.
It's not like training for the 24-hour is going out and doing a 24-hour. Like that'll help you, but I like how you pointed out part of training is getting your gut ready. Like part of training is just getting used to riding your board every day all the time, you know? Like it's not necessarily the 24 hours that gets you. There's so much more to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's like refining things over time. I don't know if this has ever happened to you before an event where like you have too much jitters going on that you can't like eat and drink normally, right? And that just hurts your performance when it comes to race, right? Because you haven't been consuming enough.
Oh yeah, those jitters will definitely create some tension in your body, and then it constricts your ability to consume what you're trying to throw at it.
I think that's a huge thing to work on. Just eating a lot of food. Like it sounds crazy, but like making sure you're comfortable like consuming food, and then also of course while you're on the ride, finding the things that are easy enough to eat that you can eat a lot of, and are you're counting the carbs, right? This whole system you have to develop takes a lot of time, wouldn't you say?
It truly does. And it's best to work on it earlier than later. Just that way you're able to play around with your fuel. But not only that, you have to work on other aspects of your nutrition, as well as your setup, your mind, your body. There's so much to consider just on the fuel aspect. I'm still not fully committed to one framework of fuel that I am currently using. I'm still tweaking it. I'm still seeing how best to play around with it. I think mainly on the solid fuel aspect, just being able at some point to consume solid fuel and seeing how that works.
Yeah. The term framework of fuel, or the phrase, I guess, that's really cool. That's a great way to put it. It's a summation of several components that make your fuel program, if you will.
Yeah.
And part of that is your hydration fuel, right? You mentioned Scratch high carb powder mix is what you use. You can use Tailwind. You can use regular Scratch. You can use Liquid IV. Actually, that's not really a calorie one. But there's other things, right? Like LMNT, Liquid IV. These are like for just electrolytes. LMNT is my favorite. I think you really like that too. Yeah, it's so good. Yeah. Have you tried the chocolate flavor?
I have. The only one I haven't tried is a grapefruit.
Oh, well, grapefruit's fine. I mean, grapefruit just tastes like all the other citrus ones. They have some great flavors. They have watermelon, raspberry, all the fruits. Then they have like these spicy ones too. And then they have chocolate. Chocolate's so good. It's like surprisingly good. You put it with water and it tastes like hot cocoa or like chocolate milk. It's best warm it up.
Side conversation on Element, the LMNT.
You call it Element? I don't know. It's what, yeah. Well, it might be Element.
I for a while was calling it LMNT until Hope, my wonderful girlfriend, she pointed out, it's like, oh, it's Element. I was like, oh, I guess you're right. But side note on it, I think from the last Ultra got that sample pack. And of course, that Ultra Skate, you kind of like put it to your side bag, or at least like I had no idea what that product was. Yeah. And it wasn't until like a few months after that I pulled open that bag and I tried it for the first time. I think like everyone else reeling back, like, whoa, this is super salty, and just being struck with this kind of salt bomb.
Yeah.
But then kind of being introduced into the world of hydrating through sodium.
It's a big one.
It is huge. That is another form of nutrition that is, I think, so crucial, is making sure you get your salts and your electrolytes.
I agree. And it's to a level that I shouldn't say people, I myself did not realize. Like you lose so much salt when you're out there, and it's another thing that's subjective. My brother and Harrison they're out in Colorado, and there's some system, some way you can get this tested where they will test how much salt you lose in a given hour of working out. And that's important information to know, because if you're not replenishing that over 24 hours, you're just gonna screw yourself. Like, it's inevitable. And I guess for those who may not be familiar, the Element, they're little packets. They each have 1,000 milligrams of salt, 200 milligrams of potassium, and then 60 of magnesium. It's something like that. I might be wrong. I know it's 1,000 sodium, and I can correct this later. But point is, really good for hydration. And it's one of those overlooked things. You just put it in your water, and the water tastes a little salty, pretty salty, but it's crazy. Once you drink it, you feel it. I feel it almost instantaneously. Like, it is that good, and it's that important.
Yeah. And with the salts, we're all, again, with the fuel, we're all we all need different amounts of it. Whether you're a salty sweater, whether you don't sweat too much. I myself become a salt lick. Even yesterday, you can see the amount of salt build up on my neck and on my hands. I think for most people, shooting for around 500 milligrams of sodium is a good base. So
per hour?
Yeah, per hour. Thank you for reminding me.
That's okay, yeah. All these numbers are per hour. That's the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
About 500 milligrams per hour is, I think, a good base. If you're getting familiar, and if you're wanting to kind of explore the hydration, which is very crucial. I myself am quite a salty sweater. And my framework is about 1,000 milligrams of sodium per hour. But speaking back on the testing, it's really cool that you're able to, go to a lab and like get scientific awesome numbers on like your VO2 max, your heart rate, all these like crazy cool statistic numbers that are just for you. But I've been seeing like at-home tests of how you personally are able to kind of test how much salt you're losing or how much you're sweating out. I think simply by just weighing yourself on a scale before a ride, and weighing yourself after and seeing the difference of weight and being able to determine, okay, well, I lost X amount of weight per hour. I should be consuming about that X amount of liquid to replenish what I've lost, and kind of determining whether, if you're a salty sweater, and using kind of the sodium numbers to kind of back it up. I don't want to get too much into detail.
I know what you're saying. It's
just
like
I am still learning these systems, so I don't want to give any misinformation. But I think just looking online of how you're able to weigh yourself to see how much you're losing.
Right. There's tons of great resources out there. You don't need the lab necessarily. And again, like Adam brought this up in his episode where he's like heart rate zones and all this stuff. You're trying to put numbers on something that's not really quantifiable necessarily. Like it's really subjective based on the person, based on the day, based on the way they're feeling, you know, like, and even then we don't know for sure. Like take it all with a grain of salt, dare I say.
Not only that, but it's hard to, fully replenish what you lost, especially with calories and carbs. When I talk about, fueling your body, you're never going to fully replenish everything, whether it be from calories and electrolytes. And it's okay to have, some sort of net loss of stuff, just because at an event, you're always going to be at a loss.
Yeah. It's not necessarily about always being equalized at 0 or whatever. Like the reality is you eat before and then you have to eat after anyway, right? You have to live your life, and like just being alive is going to take energy. So yeah, you'll be fine. Like you're going to lose a lot by the end of anything.
Yeah.
It's inevitable.
And I keep on saying frameworks because it's always good to kind of have an idea of what to replenish, or at least a number to replenish. Like earlier when I was talking about me personally, I'm shooting for 90 grams of carbs per hour. In regards to, let's say, heat, for example, if the temperature, as it normally does in ultra skate, heats up, we're able to less consume carbs and calories as it starts to warm up. It just takes more effort for our body to take these fuel in. Mm-hmm. So probably when it gets warm, I might shoot a little bit lower of grams per hour. Like yesterday, at some point, I think whether it be taste fatigue or something, I at my lowest was at 70 grams of carbs per hour, but it was still enough for me to keep pushing. And sometimes that framework allows you to increase those numbers, whether you increase it a little bit more in the cooler hours, you're able to consume more energy to propel your body, along with your hydration of, at some point, maybe you need more electrolytes, more sodium, and at some points you might need less.
Yeah.
Building a framework is, I think, really great.
Yeah, that's a fun thing to think about. Depending on the weather, you might not actually need as much salt, right? But another deceiving thing is like, so there was the Philadelphia race recently, the True Kill, and it rained the entire time. And it was a great time. We had a blast, right? It was 26 miles. Yeah, I was there. And I didn't really drink water the entire time. I had it on me. I could have drank it. I wasn't thirsty. It was raining. I was like drenched in water. I didn't think I needed to. And like finally at the end, I start cramping. And I'm like, oh, it's because I haven't consumed any electrolytes, like. So sometimes you think you don't need it, but you actually do. And that's another one that can sneak up on you, right? Like you're talking about also when it's darker, when it's colder, you might not need as much, but also certain conditions might make you think you don't need it as much when you actually do.
That's interesting. Yeah. I think it's always best to consume some amount, but I can see if I was in that situation, I would also not want to consume the water, even though it's all around me.
Yeah, it wasn't a smart thing to do. Wouldn't recommend.
How was it? Was it a good time?
It was so much fun. Yeah, we had a great time. Really great event. He's going to do more next year. It's going to be great. Philadelphia is such a nice city. So much fun.
I've never been to the east side, so hopefully maybe next year once I'm done.
You've never been to the East Coast? Besides
Florida,
Miami.
I have not.
Wow. All right. We'll have to change that.
I still would love to visit you in Maine,
Oh, yeah.
but as well as just visit the east side. I'm sure there's maybe some other fun events I'm probably missing. But probably once I'm done, spending so much of my time, energy, money, and effort on nutrition and ultra skate, I can probably have more flexibility to fly to other
Travel.
places.
Yeah. I mean, you did La Diga. That's close to the East Coast.
Holy moly.
Close
That was
enough.
when did I do Liga? I think that was like
2017? Yeah. 2017. I
it's
remember
been
that.
a while. I saw that you guys posted up the dates, and
We did.
I
Yeah,
would-
Carlos is on it.
I would love to put that on my calendar for something to revisit.
Yeah, it's gonna keep happening. Carlos is the man for the job. He's already released. We're recording this a day before registration goes live. So by the
Nice,
time
yeah.
this is released, registration will be live for La Diga. So sign up if you want to. There's only 30 spots, and I guess if I could just take a minute to talk about this. There's 30 spots only because we don't have enough volunteers and support crew to run more than 30 people. And like, it's logistically really difficult to get 50 or more than 30, like say there were 50 people across, from Atlanta to the middle of Alabama and back. It's logistically difficult, but we could do it with more help probably. But, the limit's at 30. We didn't even have 30 last year. So I doubt, it might hit the cap, but the cap's only there for that reason. It's not because we don't want people to come. It's not because we want it to be exclusive. It's just because it needs to fire well and it needs to, happen. So
Yeah.
that's
In
why.
listening with some of your other talks with planning this past La Diga or like being involved in that process, it's for everyone's safety. It's to ensure everyone's well-being and make sure that if something does happen, that there are the resources and the people available to alleviate any situations.
Right. Exactly. And we're working on like improving that every year. It's really fun to see the evolution of something like that. Talked about it with Scott, how he recommends organizing an event 3 years out, being like, first year is going to be a shit show, but not really. It's just going to be whatever it is, right? Inaugural event year is going to be whatever. And then think, okay, second year we'll have more down. Third year we'll have things refined. And sort of having that foresight can go a long way. It looks really good too from a like event goer perspective.
Nice.
Right? Like, I know the dates for this event 10 months out. This is super helpful. I can schedule my vacation now.
It truly does help. I think just always the earlier, the better you're able to prepare for it.
Mm-hmm. Which is what you're doing, right? You're training like you trained like a year out. You got home from last Ultra and you're like, I'm going to start training now. So training too, right? Just as much as event planning, goes a long way.
Yeah, truly.
So I have another question. I think you touched on this a little bit, but people might be curious sort of what setup are you riding? What's your go-to long distance skate? What did you ride for yesterday's 100K? What are you riding?
Well, what I rode on my 100K from yesterday, it's hopefully not the board, or maybe the board I'll be using as my backup for Ultra Skate. As I'm recording this right now, I am missing a board. On my 5K attempt, I skated myself to mental exhaustion, and I left my board behind.
Wow.
And it got, snatched.
It got jacked.
Yeah.
That's so fucked up.
So hopefully I can have my board back, but that setup that I was planning to take to Ultra Skate was the Pantheon, the Bandito.
Okay.
I was such an avid user of La Machina from Subsonic. Um, but once I hopped on that Bandito, I really enjoyed the shorter platform, just enough
Oh yeah.
for your feet. Felt very nice and agile. I really like the bounce and the play and the narrowness of the platform. I really like that deck.
I loved the Bandito. That was
Yeah.
the one I was riding for my platform setup. Yeah. So that's what you
I
got on your deck. Are you doing torsion tail, or what do you have in the back?
Yeah, I really like the torsion tail, the TTA. I really like how it has kind of a fork setup, and you're able to, I think, better ride switch pushing a little bit harder and faster without it being played, or without your weight being played around too much. The Delirium with the vertical kingpin with the kind of bushings that are stacked on top of each other, I find when I push a switch that I'm less stable.
Oh, weird. When you say switch, are you saying like Mongo switch? So like your board foot's like in the back a little bit?
Is that Mongo? Just like not. Yeah, yeah. When I push switch, I push Mongo. So when I'm pushing switch, my non-dominant board leg is more in the rear, and I feel because that is my non-dominant, I need more stability. And with the Delirium, I feel like it kind of creates this kind of like balance system, almost like if you're on those like balance boards with the wheel that you kind of have to like find that right spot.
Yeah.
So when I'm pushing switch on the Delirium, I find that it has too much play. So I really like the TTA just because it has, for me, more stability. Especially with my bushing setups, I feel like I ride very soft bushings compared to a lot of folks. I use Riptide's 70A bushings.
70?
Yeah, the purple ones that are like,
yeah,
you can basically turn to jello with your hand.
That's interesting. I like that observation you have of sort of the Mongo push changing the way it feels, the way like your push. I've always wondered about this. Like for me personally, I'll like shuffle my foot up a little bit. I like to try and keep it in the middle if I'm pushing Mongo.
Oh.
But like, yeah, I try not to have it too far back. But I don't know if it does anything. I just like it. It feels more comfortable. I feel like my momentum's a little more forward, but the just, the switching from regular pushing to Mongo is effortless in the, you just kind of like change the leg. Whereas if you want to shuffle, you kind of have to change how you're standing on the board, which takes a little bit of energy out of you, which like we're talking ultra skate kind of thing or any long distance ride, that little bit of energy. Number one, it costs a lot, but it could also trigger like you to fall somehow, right? If
Very
you're
much
like shifting your weight.
Losing your balance is something that can happen so easily when you're skating for 24 hours, or even when you skate for a very hard intensity for a short duration. What's your primary setup that you push switch on?
My like board setup?
Yeah, like when you push switch and you're able to shuffle your non-dominant board leg to the middle, which board are you mainly using?
That's any board.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Like, and it's maybe not so much of a shuffle as like you just kind of put one foot behind the other as opposed to having them spread out and then you switch. So it's like your regular foot is on the bolts, say, of a bracket board, right? So it's right on the edge, right? Like where the bracket curves up, and then you put your other foot right behind that. And now it's like right in the middle of the board. And like you're kind of standing on the front of the board with both of your feet, but then you just take the switch foot off to push. Does that make sense?
Wait. So you actually like you switch from like riding what is it? Regular to riding like goofy, or you ride goofy to riding regular?
If I were to stop pushing, yeah, but like you don't really stop pushing, right? Like you just kind of switch
Oh,
legs.
that's super interesting to hear.
Yeah.
'Cause
I
even
think
when
riding switch is super important.
and you're talking about riding switch as in like from facing one way of the board to facing the other way of the board.
Completely, yeah. If you're regular, now you're goofy, yeah. And like riding down the street like that, or down a hill, dare I? Like, take the challenge.
I that's actually very impressive to hear. I myself, even when I'm switching, my orientation, even though I'm facing forward, if I were to snap back into my regular stance, I would still be facing one way of the board. I'm a regular
Yep.
facing skater, so I face to the right of the board, and I always face to the right of the board. I'm not at the level of comfortability where I can face to the left. I understand its importance, but that's impressive.
Yeah, I say important, but that's just like not really a thing. It's do whatever you want, Like I like to do it because it makes me feel more comfortable. And like when you fall, or like if you're like you have to swerve around something, you have like better board control if you can just hop right on the board wherever you need to.
I
Like treat it like it's like this, ambiguous thing. It's not necessarily like goofy or regular, right?
I guess speaking back, the reason why I think I'm not able to kind of in my regular setup do that movement, not only because I am less comfortable with that, but also like the board is only so big for my feet, even like from toe to heel.
Yeah, the bandito is pretty small.
It just works that I just lift my front foot just to push.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like it's so effortless and it's so much cleaner to do it that way. The thing I think about is like your hips are like kind of locked in one position. And like does that do anything? I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud really. Like it'd be nice to have an expert get on this and analyze more about form and whether or not shifting that like when you say you're facing one way, you're facing the other, it's like right or left. Which way are you facing, And if you're kind of always locked in this facing right position, is that doing anything that you don't want, right? Do you want to make sure you change it up to balance things out?
I've considered that for pumping, for like stand-up paddle setups, but I've never considered that for like a regular push kind of system. But I'm mainly a pusher. That's what I'll be doing. I won't be stand-up paddling. And yeah, it would be interesting to kind of like see more forms and maybe see a switch sup person.
That'd be really cool.
I'm just gonna stay comfortable in my one regular stance way.
Yeah, as comfortable as you can skating 13 miles an hour for 4.5 hours. Yeah, I don't think what you're doing is very comfortable, Angel. I would say you're pushing your limits there. That's good though. It's great to see you're really killing it with the training. Really inspiring. And I love seeing your stuff on Strava. If anyone else is on Strava, get on there. Make sure you follow all the skaters. I just got it like way too late, and it's super motivating to look on there and be like, see, like your rides. You did one. It was like yellow team, IDSA team. Oh, the challenge is live. It's going. If you don't know about this, it'll be like 3/4 of the way through by the time this releases, but really fun. This whole like red team, blue team, green team, yellow team. You signed up earlier, right? If you're in this, and every 100 kilometers you get 1 point for your team. There's like 30 people on a team, right?
Like
Each
that.
team, and they're all gauged to be about the same amount of mileage based on what you said you were looking to accomplish in October. So for the month of October, all of our kilometers, I should say, are being recorded. Every 100K, we get 1 point for our team. You're on the yellow team. I'm on the green team. So green team strong if you're out there.
I was following your brother, and I was super excited. I think it was like last week that I saw your name pop up.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, yeah. Max, come join. And just like, it's funny having this Facebook style activity feed, just like being able to kind of keep up on other people and just, I think, have more expressive creativity on these like fun little posts for your training rides.
They've done such a good job at making social media for this kind of thing. Like you pointed out, it's like Facebook, but with all the stuff you actually want to see. Just people's rides, you know, like you can comment, you can like follow people, you know, message people, like really cool. I'm actually very impressed. Last time I looked into Strava, must have been like 8 years ago. And they were like very anti everything that wasn't cycling. Now it seems like they've really opened up, and the app is really impressive. There's a lot you can do with it. I connected my Apple Watch to it very easily. I imagine it's very easy to connect any other tracking device. Very cool, and highly recommend. Get on Strava. All right. So we talked a lot about Ultraskate, which was sort of the other thing I wanted to pick your brain on. Is there any other like general training tips or anything Ultraskate related you want to touch on here that we didn't talk about?
I don't think I have anything other than fueling to know on for Ultraskate. I feel like fueling is kind of, for me and maybe for other people, kind of the key component that they might have been missing. Just getting really comfortable with that, setting up a fuel plan, doing long rides to get your gut ready and to feel comfortable with your fuel. But with those long miles, you know, you get your practice in of actually skating. But there's not other like strong opinions other than that I feel for training, other than just to like have fun, show up, do the best you can do, and have a good time.
No, that's so good, because what you're saying is essentially there are things you can control and try and control them as best you can. And what you consume is the easiest thing to control.
Oh, yeah.
So great point, honestly. Not something I really thought too much about, but like, yeah, like that's a problem for me. I imagine it's a problem for other people, and I'm definitely going to be looking into this more.
I feel like you can definitely put in a lot more outward energy if you have your ingoing energy on point. Like I'm talking to you, Max. I feel like you got a lot in you that you can show for, and I feel like I'm ready for other people to kind of explore nutrition and explode with energy.
Yeah, I love that though, because what you're saying is so simple. It's just eat food, get energy, like consume, know what you're consuming, and just get on that shit. Like it's not that hard. Everyone eats every day. Like just think about it a little more. Yeah, I guess in regards to anything else, is there anything not training Ultraskate related, anything not skateboarding related that you got on your mind that we should let everyone know?
Not that I like need to let everyone know, but I don't know, you know, what motivates you other than like your own, or for myself, other than, you know, the natural competitiveness and wanting to see how well I can do a certain event or time. But what also motivates me is music. Max, you feel the same way?
Yeah, sure.
I always have like music in my ears, and it puts a better mood while I'm on these long rides. I want to share some of these artists.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
I myself am very interested in instrumental music. I feel like for these long rides, it's not as attention grabbing as lyrical music is.
Sure.
So all these artists are instrumental artists. A few bands is one called L1011. That's like EL and then the number is 1011. I feel like their
Cool.
albums, Transitions and New Year's Eve, is really great.
Yeah, cool. I love that.
There's another band called And So I Watch You From Afar. They're gonna be more of a metal for when you kind of like need more energy and drive for your long rides. I really like the album All Hail Bright Futures, as well as another album, The Endless Shimmering.
Perfect.
And mainly when I listen to these musics, I listen to it from albums. I feel like it kind of like creates this world experience for you to kind of transport your body out of.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. Listening to full albums is a great idea. Combining that with a skate is a really cool thing. You kind of go on a little journey and you have a little story, little narrative.
I got one more too. This one's definitely a fun one for when you need like a 5K or 10K kind of energy. Is a band called Bear Cubbin, and this is like if a bear cub was turned into a verb with an apostrophe and exclamation point. That's how their name is spelled. And I really like their album Girls with Fun Haircuts.
Sweet. I'll put all of these in the description.
Yeah.
As recommendations.
I find them to be very beautiful music, and it's just, fun energy that you can kind of tune into, tune out of, to kind of help your drive, help break up the pain.
The monotony, yeah. That's great. We haven't had music recommendations yet on the show. This is great.
Max, do you have any? Do you have
You're gonna put me on the spot. So a lot of the things you were saying there, like instrumental music, and then one of the bands you said reminded me of the band Explosions in the Sky. Have you ever heard of that band? I remember discovering them in like high school. They were like my moody high school band, just all instrumental, really intense instrumentals though. If you've ever seen the movie Friday Night Lights, they did the soundtrack for that. Or for some of the songs on that. And yeah, it's good. That's what I would recommend, but I don't have any like specific albums off the top of my head. Music's great though. I don't listen to music while I ride. Only because I don't have those headphones that let you hear what's going on around you at the same time, which I would like to have if I was going to do that. Only because I skate in the street. Like, I don't have trails, right? So it's really important for me to hear what's going on.
Yeah, I love music. So people in the comments section, do your thing. Give your suggestion of your favorite artists or albums or music.
Yeah, we'll get we'll make a playlist. It'll be the distance skateboarding playlist.
Yeah, I definitely want to see other people's motivation for music and what powers them in their darkest of hours.
Yeah. That's great. That is excellent. The music thing is fun. It would be nice. We talked a lot about Ultra, but we're going to talk about it some more. You know how the music plays at Ultra Skate, and it's like, I don't want to say it's bad because music taste is subjective, but it might not be the best for Ultra Skate. Like, what if we had all those albums you recommended, like the instrumental music just playing,
I mean, if you want me to give me the aux cord and have me be DJ,
I would love to pass you the aux cord at Ultra. I would actually probably rather give it to Clark Blumenstein.
Oh, that's a good one.
Only because he could really hold it down, and I know you're going to be skating the whole time. So,
my only gripe for Ultra Skate in terms of the music was how loud it was.
Yeah, that's fair.
In those times where I was on the sideline, kind of reeling back my energy, I had a hard time regaining focus just because of how loud the music was. I think that was
they do turn it off at a certain point, but even then it's just like then it gets so quiet you just fall asleep if you're on the sidelines.
It was a little too much too loud for me this year.
Yeah. Who knows what the best formula is for that.
Mm-hmm.
But is that where we're going to see you next? Is Ultra Skate?
Yeah. Come see me in Phoenix if you're in the area.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah.
Hope and I we're going to be living there just for the winter. So I'm excited to train in non-Pacific Northwest winter weather. So
that's going to be amazing.
I'm looking forward to it. I don't know anything about Phoenix or Arizona quite yet, but I'm excited for more comfortable riding conditions. But probably the next event you'll see me at will be at Ultra Skate. And hopefully, as time goes on, I'll be able to afford more trips to other locations.
Yeah. So I guess if you are in the area, Phoenix, Arizona area, Angel, where can they reach you? Social media? What's the best way to get in touch?
Right now, hit me up on Instagram. That's probably where I'm most active, even though I don't post a lot. You can still reach out to me. I'll still love to chat and talk at the dude with the loot.
Yeah.
Or if you want, if I'm able to do this in time, Angelito Skates.
Oh, cool. I like that. So that's going to be a skateboarding centered Instagram account.
It's going to be still a me. Like I'm still very much like a non-social media frequent user. That if you look at my account right now, it's mainly my skate, and I don't really do much else for social media. So it'll still be me, but I think with the better attention grabbing name of, oh, this guy skates, not not like the mysterious, like, oh, so you have a loot, or like this like confusion of like where does your name come into this?
No, that's a great point. It's nice to have the name kind of be more in line with the content you're putting out.
Yeah.
Social media is hard though.
Yeah, that's like my name, but like Mexicanized with the ito. Angelito. Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, I'll have that, whatever one, if you have that up, I'll have that in the description.
Yeah.
People can reach out.
With my skateversary happening on October 10th, I'll probably do something around that time.
Oh yeah, that's coming up in like 3 days.
Yeah, I know. Right. It's not on me too. I was like, holy moly! I guess I've been doing this for quite some time. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. 8 years. Holy moly!
8 years.
When people always ask me, it's like, oh, how long have you been skating? I was just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 years, but it's been 8 years.
You're a skateboarder. Awesome. Well, hey, I really appreciate you coming on the show, taking time out of your morning, talking about training, talking about a lot of fun stuff here. I think a lot of people probably learned from what you said, and I appreciate you offering yourself as a resource in this. Yeah, the whole fuel question is really tough. It's really tricky, and like, where do you start, So thanks for coming on.
Even myself, I'm still learning. I still haven't gotten the full grasp of nutrition and fuel. So I'm still educating myself with that. But yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm truly honored.
It's been great. Thank you so much.